Hello! Well, my last upload to YouTube was showing you guys that I took the Daniel Smith dot card and then made a huge swatch sheet. Like every single, except for the iridescent ones, was swatched out on one sheet of paper, and then I looked at it and I just was mesmerized how beautiful it looked, so I decided to hang it on my wall. And then later on I realized it's a damn good tool, because now I got the name of the color visual, you know, in front of my nose tip. So maybe I will be better when I'm watching paint-alongs and stuff and people call out a color. I will be better to hit that color in a mix, because I like to mix my own colors, but I sometimes need a visual of what I'm aiming for, you know. So I was thinking about if I should make it a very personal tool. I should take my own pigments and give myself a swatch card for my art room. I know it sounds so crazy, but I think it's worth it, because with my own pigments I would be able to narrow down something from my stash. I mean, suddenly it's possible to reach a look-alike Daniel Smith color, for instance, if I look at my own pigments. So I decided to narrow it down to my top selection of best palettes, and I have to say, I know I got a lot of watercolors, but when it comes down to the most likable bunch, it's this. I love my core, I really do. They are very strong, they float so beautifully. I use them way too little, and when you look at the swatch card, oh my god, look how beautiful it is. Look at the quin gold tones, I mean the warm red. I mean, there's just so much likable about this palette. Such a shame that I keep it in the back of my drawer and don't reach for it. I think it has something to do with the palette itself. I don't like to mix on this tray, you know. I don't know. I also cannot dismiss my Van Gogh palette. It's this one. There are some dusk colors that I really enjoy working with, that are granulating so nicely, and I know it's student paint, but you know what? I have really used up a lot of Van Gogh. My first pocket Van Gogh of 12 half pans was used up. Then I bought a 24 half pan set, and it's used up. And then I, for a birthday gift, gave myself, you know, just purchased these dust colors, and I created this palette by hand picking from their swatch card, right? So I have to have that palette represented in my favorite colors too. This box here contained the first 24 sets of the Van Gogh, and I moved it and put in my Nila Coloris. They're from Italy. This is the swatch card. Very, very special pigments. It's made out of an old Renaissance recipe where they're using beetles' crushed urine from a bull to do their stilted grain. I mean, like there's a lot of craftsmanship, old school stuff going into these paints, so that's, I feel I'm painting with history, you know, when I'm using this Renaissance palette. So of course this palette has to be represented also. I bought some Daniel Smith, not a lot, but I was a fan of Jane Davenport, and she recommended these Daniel Smith colors, so I went out very early on my journey and bought these tubes to be able to follow her tutorial and her online classes. So what I got left from this stash here is the Amethyst Genuine, the Hermited Violet Genuine, and the Rhodonite Genuine, and then I added a Hansa Yellow from the Daniel Smith Essential set and bought on the side a Mayan Blue. So of course this palette also have to be represented in my swatch card. And this is the Mission Gold. Very potent, very likable. I love this palette a lot. It's gifted to me from Janet, so I would say like half of my love for this paint and this palette is coming directly from her, you know, because I know her hands crafted this whole box and gifted it to me. So I have her with me when I paint with this paint, so it's I treasure it a lot. And it have to be on my swatch card also. Sennelier, yeah, what's not to like about Sennelier? I mean, oh my god. Do we have, I think I have a separate swatch card. This one, very delicate, layers so beautiful, but delicate, like you don't really paint in mass tone when you use Cinelia because you layer a lot, you know. So I really like that very delicate, transparent look of this swatch card. Just for comparison, this is like mass tone M Grahms, you know. I mean, there is a difference, right? And you can just tell, you know, which one is the Cinelia and which one is the M Grahms, right? So of course, this palette also has to be represented. I'm in doubt with the Graphitint. I like them a lot. I know it doesn't look like I have used them a lot, but I really have. They are very frugal. You only have to dip and then it dissolves so quickly on a wet brush. And when I look at the swatch card, I can see that it can add some dusk faux granulate looking fun pans to other paints. Like if you wanted this ocean blue to have more slate blue in it, you can put in, you know, maybe an indigo. Try it with a light wash of indigo. So can you see how you can you can turn up and down on the hue of these, but borrow the texture from these paints. So I think if you like granulation, you can have like a faux granulation effect by using the Graphitint, mix it up with other paints that you have to, you know, spice it up. I'm in doubt whether I should include the Graphitint into my most loved pigments because I must admit I have been using this set like that, you know, like a cheater gateway to get a exciting granulating effect. So and I love the process, so I should honor it by including it. This is a compilation of a lot of good paints in a strange palette. I took the time to figure out what every single pan was, where it came from, what the name of it. It was not that bad, and I'll tell you why it wasn't that bad. Because hooray for all of us who writes everything down. This is a journal that goes back to 2016, right? And in the back of this journal, I was so lucky. Oh, I have to move this palette so I don't break it. It's such a treasure. In the back of this palette, I actually recall I told you guys that I bought the Jane Davenport, Daniel Smith and Smincke palette. So I saved all the wrapping from the Smincke pans, and then right here are all the names of my Daniel Smith and also the original swatch card. So it wasn't that bad. And then before this Daniel Smith arrived, I couldn't wait, so I went out and bought myself a 12 half pan of Smincke and also glued in and saved the wrapping. So I was so lucky that I was able to go back and then find the identical paints. And what's so cool about respectable companies, could you call it that? They actually put pigments info on their pans. oh, here it is. Respectable companies either print in their pigment info, pan number, or put a sticker on the side, so I could like double check, like, yes, this was that color. So it was not that bad to go back and reconstruct every single pan. Yes. So now I want to give myself my own personal swatch sheet and a view of my stash and what pigments are in this house, so I can use it as a tool. And because I am so honored that a lot of people, and in my world a lot of people, that's 2 or 3, right? So it's very rare that I upload something to YouTube and people give it a huge thumbs up and say, hey, I'm gonna try this. So when it happens, it just brings joy, you know. And I have had 3 people giving me feedback on Instagram and on my YouTube video saying that, oh my god, I love this, I have to try it. So that's why I'm returning with a very thorough how-to video, so you guys can see how I made this swatch sheet. You might have better ideas than I have, but I'm just gonna show you how I did it, so in case that you want to make a sheet like this for yourself, you will have seen my thought of process. So what I'm doing is that first I'm picking out my beloved pans, right? And then I'm counting up how many swatches it will take to, you know, swatch out every single pan of this. And I am going to swatch out every single, even though there's going to be like a row of 30 yellows in one stream, like in one row, because I want to see all 30 yellows next to each other. Yeah. What I do is that I then take, I don't know about you guys, but when I receive new paint and I swatch them out for the first time, I end up with these sheets of swatches, and I will simply go and take out these swatches that carries the name of them, and also so I know what palette I can find it in. And then I will sit and look at all the yellows to begin with, and then determine trying to collect all the lemon yellows, start with that, moving on to transparent yellow medium, to yellow medium, Hansa yellow light, Hansa deep, cat yellow deep, gamboge, Indian yellow, you know. So I get like this rainbow swatch of my stash. And the way that I'm going to have a checklist so it doesn't I don't end up swatching the same twice, is that I'm gonna take a transparent sheet and lay over top of this, so when I have swatched one color, I will cross that out on the transparent sheet, so I constantly can see what's missing to be swatched from, for instance, this palette. But before I start the swatching, I want to bring you over to the sheet of paper that I'm going to prep for this. Yeah, welcome to the most sick camera view ever. Struggling with my camera arm. Okay, now for the most tedious part, but for me, it's because I'm so anal, I actually think it's fun. It's a challenge. I put all my swatch cards into pocket protectors so they have like a plastic surface. So now I have opened up an Excel program in my on my computer, because Excel shows you row numbers, and I have calculated that I got 312 pan swatches. I got space for that on my swatch sheet, right? So I know that when I reach row 312, there are no more space on my swatch sheet. What I do now is that I just slowly decide what I want to swatch. I don't want to swatch any white, because that's just stupid. So I can tell that I got some, those Naples yellows, like skin tones, are really weird. They should come after the white swatch. And I also got a Daniel Smith buff titanium, and I got a Holbein shown brilliant. So I'm talking about these that looks like skin tones before the yellow color start. So I think I want to start with those first. So I'm taking these swatch cards, arming myself with a marker, and then slowly I'm just gonna start typing in. The brightest one is a pan from Holbein. Shaun Brilliant, B-R-I-L-L-I-A-N-T, and then I'm gonna give myself 2 rows. One is the name of the swatched pan. This is gonna be such an epic upload where I'm struggling with a lot of pronunciations. One row is the name of the color. The second row is in which pan I can find it in. And I happen to call my Smincke Daniel Smith palette for the Rolls Royce. So, yep. And now I have my marker and I can cross out that I got that pan. And now the second, I'm thinking the buff titanium should be, yeah, the second. So I'm gonna write DS for Daniel Smith. And it also belongs in my Rolls Royce palette. So now I can cross that one out. So can you see how it looks like chaotic, but it really isn't, because I got these sheets of paper and I can really clearly see which yellow is the brightest. So in what order it can go, it can just be put in, and it's very easy for me. If I change my mind, I can just add a new row and then switch the order, you know. So the plan is to write in all the 312 pans, and then I will print out this Excel sheet and I will start looking at the sheet when I come to the swatch, because it will tell me which palette to dip into and which color to reach for, so it can come up on my swatch chart. I use washi tape as the space divider between my swatches, and I store all my washi tape in this box. And in the lid here I'm storing the ones that were gifted to me. This one was from Devon, look how beautiful it is. Oh, and then also from Sandra Scraps to Beauty. Anyway, what also was gifted to me was these skinny washi tapes from Kathy Berg. So I'm gonna take these rolls of the skinny as a divider between the swatches, and then I need a little wider washi tape for the row between the swatches. You could say like the header, where you're gonna write what color it is. I think a regular size washi is a little bit too wide, so I'm gonna take one that's a little bit narrower than a regular washi. So skinny washi, and not regular washi, but a little bit skinnier washi than a regular washi is what I'm gonna use. So what I do is that I took a watercolor sheet and mounted on a piece of paper, so if I'm doing any measurements I can put my pencil strokes outside the paper, and then I arm myself with regular good tape that has a good stick, and then I take the washi tape and I prep 2 small pieces of tape. I'm using the tape on the edges of the washi, otherwise it will just curl up and peel off, and I know you will hate it. So Now I'm struggling to find where this one begins. I simply just take, yeah, typical. When the camera is on, you can't do ordinary things lightly. Okay, I put the tape down immediately, put my finger here, and simply just scroll the roll down. And then I got a pencil mark down here. You probably can't see it, but what I do is that I line it up with the pencil mark, burnish with my finger across the page, rip off the small washi, and immediately put on a piece of tape. That's how you get these long lines of washi to cooperate from the get-go, actually. So one more time, I take the skinny washi tape on the end, find my mark, and then lay it down, and then I simply just continue. I have measurements in centimeters. That's not going to help you a lot if you don't use the same metric system as I do. But if you have like a ½ inch between each tape, you could just wing it, you know, start taping up your sheet with half an inch space between the washi tape, and then see how many rows you get. Put in your grid and then count all the numbers, and then from that pick how many swatches you're going to make. Because having to calculate everything like like 300 swatches divided up with this sheet, that's what I did with the Daniel Smith sheet, because I also had to fit it in a frame, and the frame itself was a Peter because it had an inner frame cardboard to frame whatever you put inside it. So it was a Peter. I'm not gonna take you guys there because you're just gonna pull out your hair. But hopefully you can understand the tips and tricks about using real stationary tape to glue down your washi strip so it won't curl up on you. And as you can see, it doesn't take a lot of ruler work. All you need is that initial mark making, and it helped me to mount with tape. It's mounted in this end here, this piece of paper, and then just write my marks on the paper it's lying on. So yeah. Hope the madness makes sense so far. Okay, now comes the time to put in the row divider washi, and I picked a washi that's a little bit narrower than a generic washi roll, and I thought that the stickiness on it would be better than on the skinny washi. I can understand why the skinny washi won't attach so much because it's got such a little surface, but I have to say that even this washi has a tendency to want to peel off, so once again I have to secure them down with tape. What I do is that I lay down the first one, and then I take my ruler, and I'm working with Danish measurements, so I don't know if yours is like 1.5 inch long column, but mine is 4 centimeters. So I simply just measure 4 centimeters down, and I use those as guidelines to apply the washi. Whoops. Oh man, this is so lame. I'm actually almost running out of the skinny washi. Can I actually film something as a human, like do a human task without... Oh, what can I do now? Okay, I am so lucky that some of the old Jane Davenport washi is the exact same width. So once again, I have to find where it starts. Yeah, this is making my upload twice as long. I wish I was prepared, man. Yeah, let me just ramble while I'm looking for the beginning of this washi. And tell you that I think it's easier to measure like this, you know, where you apply a tape, then measure 4 centimeters down, apply the tape and measure 4 centimeters. It seems a little bit tedious, but you are avoiding a huge equation mathematically, because having to figure out the marks before you start putting washi down can be a peter, because you have to calculate the width of the washi with your calculations, right? So here I'm actually pretty darn sure that if I place my washi, oh no, look, it wants to separate. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm gonna MacGyver another solution by moving some of this washi further down, because this washi will not cooperate. Yeah. Don't hoard your washi. If you do it, the stickiness will just ruin the whole roll. This washi is from Jane Davenport's 2017 release, so it must have been 5 years in this roll already, so that's why it's giving me a hard time. But burnish down your washi if you are working on watercolor paper that got some tooth to the top of the paper. So before you start swatching, make sure that you burnish with your finger the washi down, so you are pretty darn sure that it won't run under, paint won't run underneath the tape into the next compartment. So, but can you just imagine that I was able to roll out this, stick it, then measure 4 centimeters down one more time, new roll, and then that's how I get completely same sized swatch areas. And this header up here, I think when I'm finished swatching one row, I will have to note down on a piece of paper what paint I use, and then take off the header anyway and write in that small compartment. But let me see how it goes. You know, you always change your plans when you're in the middle of the project. I do. Sorry about the weird angle, but I honestly don't know how to film this, you know, without having it slanted like this. Well, I think I painted my way into a corner, and I just want to talk about this in case that you are going to make your own swatch card. What I did was that in Excel I wrote down the color name and then in which pen and palette I can find it. And then it's just, for me, seemed natural to transition into indigo and Payne's gray at this row here. And I really would love to have some of the indigos and Payne's gray in the bottom of the chart, because that's where the ivory black and the lamp black comes. Otherwise it would be like this abrupt thing, like burnt umber and then suddenly ivory black, you know. So if you're making this swatch card, I think you will end in the same situation where I am, where you have been using some indigos and Payne's grays up here, but you saved some for down here also. So yeah, I don't know if I like it like that, because I would think it's a bluish color, because Payne's gray bluish is so close to indigo in some brands. So yeah, just talking. But so far I like it so much. I'm not gonna let you guys watch me swatch out every single thing, because that would like really make you like 5 years older on a regular day. I'm just gonna show you how I work. Sennelier Phthalo Cyan Blue is my next one to swatch. So I start burnishing down the washi tape to make sure that it sticks to this watercolor paper that's kind of textured, you know. So I wet down the area, and then I grab Sennelier, Phthalo, Cyan, blue, and I do all the counting, you know, to make sure that I pick up the right color. I think you know what I mean, like sometimes when you have to pick a color immediately from a palette, and you, like me, I'm working with 11 brands right now, so I need to really be consistent. But see how I swatched it twice, and that's because watercolor dries out a little bit lighter, so you might regret. I wanted to give my ultramarines some light ending in the swatches, because I sometimes use ultramarine for sky, so it's nice not to see mass tone ultramarine, but to see how the color kind of look and granulate when it's like painted very softly. So yeah. And then I have ready on me some tissue, just to grab and soak up that excess water down there. And if you, like me, touch the paper, you can just come back with your brush and mend it like that. And then I cross out this one, and then I move to the next. So yeah, that's the madness behind it. So I have reached a very beloved spot where I have to swatch out the quinacridone Quin Gold. That's just my favorite color, and I've been anticipating to swatch it out.
Hello, darling. Nice to see you.
It's been a long time.
You're just as handsome as you used to be.
Okay. The whole idea with an ASMR clip in this is that I should be quiet, but I just can't shut the pie hole. So, but look, it looks so beautiful. Overwhelmingly, lots of colors just jumping in your eyes if you are sitting in front of it. And just like with the Daniel Smith dot card, it's mesmerizing to look at the swatches up close, to see how they dried up, the granulation peeking through, how a lot of these colors are laying next to each other. And I realized that I don't have a lot of duplicates. There is a minute difference between every swatches, at least it seems to me. So yeah, I just think it's so pretty. Eye candy, eye candy. I definitely love to see all the darks. I painted them very lightly so you can still tell the color hue of the dark. Yeah, love it. Okay, here it is. It's not going to live in this frame. I just framed it temporarily to protect it. Yeah, too many hours went into this sheet. I am so clumsy, so I would really hate it if I had an accident or something. But yeah, I swatch out 11 brands, and it's like I said, like the top of the line of my collection. The brands that are here are Holbein, Winsor Newton, Artist Grade, Daniel Smith, Mission Gold, Smincke, Cinelia, Van Gogh, that's a student grade, M. Graham, Derwent Graphitint palette, Nila Colori, handmade Italian watercolors, and Core. I'm actually surprised, that the diversity of the colors look. It actually looked like, not so crazy. It's 11 brands, and I think the reason why I don't have like 4 rows of duplicate one color is because the way I set up my more expensive paint palettes is that I pick and choose one tube or one pan at the time. And the first big palette that I set up was the Sennelier palette, and then M. Graham, I think, was the next brand that each month I chipped in with a couple of tubes. And then I was more looking at the color names than aspiring to own the whole line. So I never got my hands on the gamboge from M. Graham, so instead I picked up a gamboge from Sennelier, and I was interested in the Indian yellow, but didn't get it from Daniel Smith, so instead I got it from Smincke. And crisscrossing between those 11 brands, picking by looking at the color name and not so much, trying to own a complete line of each brand. So that's why a lot of these colors are actually quite different. Of course, I love red, and it shows on this card here, right? So, and I also love core paint. So of course I got all the reds in the core line because I just found it very pleasing to paint with red paint from core. And I also try to pick up every ultramarine from a brand and sometimes 2 tubes of ultramarine if they have a non-granulating ultramarine, like it happened with Cinelia. So it's always interesting, to see the difference in the ultramarines from brand to brand, because there is actually a huge difference in how is it weak, is it warm, and how does the granulation show, and also pick the colors that looks like ultramarine, like the Smincke Paris blue. I've been using that a lot because I had a long time where I was like kind of bored, always dipping into the ultramarine. So I ventured out to try look-alike ultramarines like the M gram and I can't pronounce it. Anthronon blue. Oh, yeah, I can't pronounce it. I can spell it, but I can't pronounce it. So I have to say that this swatch card is a very good reference if there is, a color. Like for instance, I also have ventured out in a lot of the light ochres because I was sick and tired of the very opaque yellow ochre that I had in other sets. So that's why Nila Colori came into the picture, because they have very transparent earth tones and ochres and raw siennas. And that's also how I kind of expanded into the Queen Gold line with the Queen Rust and everything. So yeah, I don't even know why I'm babbling about this. Now this is made. I have to give it a headline and frame it in a different frame because I wanted to stand out the names of the brands that are displayed here. What's not here are, if I just think quickly, the rest of my collection is Paul Rubens, Prima, Jane Davenport, White Knights, the Paco palette, Jerry Q, Cutman, the Ardenfly palette. But what's significant about those palettes is that it's like craft paint that you get like 36 colors in a palette, and that's their line. And they have like a different supplier that manufactures their paint, so you can even find duplicates, but just market it under a different name, So I don't want to spend time investigating those brands, lining them up, and see what I get from a swatch card, because the swatch card will never be as interesting as this one, I think. So, but yeah, I just wanted to round up my video by showing that this is what it ended up with for today. And then I'm gonna find a suitable frame and yada yada, and find a place to hang it up where the sun is not in the room, because it I know they say that a lot of these brands are light fast, but I want to use it as a tool, my tool, my paint, my swatch cards. So I want to hang it preferably behind a door in a room where it will not be exposed to as much daylight. So yeah, love it. It was worth it. It was so worth it. And whatever came out of Watercolor Month 2022 was this crazy idea of swatching out my own private collection. I think it's so damn worth it. I'm so happy that I did it. So, but thanks for watching along. And if you are trying to attempt this at home, I wish you good luck, and I hope that you do it, and then you will realize how thrilling it is to look at your own private swatch card of paint you got in the house. So yeah, game on. I'm just telling you, it's a fun process, it's a tedious process, but it pays out in the end. So bye bye.